So what are the elements of security in Business Central? Well, first we have our user setup. Then, if we have multiple users in the system who are performing the same tasks, we can create a user group. Permission sets are either assigned to the user or the user group, and this is what pretty much determines what we have access to in the system. I have two matrices here that I've listed, permission sets by user group and permission sets by user. Just to make mention of these, we're going to look at them a little bit closer when we get into demoing some of this user security setup. But these are two great matrices to look at whether you're dealing with user setup or user security issues. Great pages to keep in mind for looking at who in your organization has access to what in Business Central. So user security in Business Central is basically driven by the permission sets. So either you assign a permission set to a user, or you put that user in a user group, and that user group has permission sets to assign to it. Those permission sets, they can be completely customized down to what the user needs, or there's plenty of out-of-the-box permission sets that have already been defined in Business Central. Okay, I'm also going to show you guys some additional user settings that we have. And I'm also going to show you the effective permissions page, which pretty much shows us what we have access to in Business Central as given to us by the permission sets. Okay, let's take a look. So I'm just going to move into my Business Central company here, which is Fabricam. I'm going to search for users. And here we go. So you may want to bookmark this page here if you're a system administrator. If you're going in there quite often, you can bookmark this users page so that you can get to it quickly from your home page. Okay, so here we are on the user list. I'm going to be mostly focusing on my user ID here. Okay, so what's nice about Business Central is we have our fact box pane here, and this is going to give us a lot of information about the selected user ID that we have. Okay, so we can see here I'm on Colin P. It shows me what type of license I have. It shows me which permission sets are applied to my user ID and which user groups I'm in. Okay, we also have additional information here in regards to my posting dates and some of my user preferences. Okay, so the first page I wanted to show you guys after this was the user setup. So that's going to be in Navigate and User Setup. So on this page here, we just have a few other user security type of things that we can set up here, such as specifying which date we want to allow that user to post from. So if you have nothing in there as it is, you're pretty much free to post wherever you want in the system. And from this page, we can also do certain things such as register the time that this user is in the system and what tables they're looking at. Okay, and secondly, I wanted to show you guys here the effective permissions page. So I'll just let this load up here quickly. So basically what this page is showing us is which tables we have access to. Okay, so we can see here we got our payment terms table, and I have read, insert, modify, and delete permissions on that table. Okay, down here it's showing us which permission set is giving us access to this table. Okay, so this is kind of a little bit more of a complex window here, but I just wanted to get you guys kind of familiar with where your permissions are coming from, and just kind of want to dig down a little bit into the permissions in the system, but I don't want to get too technical. So just making you guys aware that this page is here. You can use it for any type of issues you may have if you need to investigate where somebody's user security is coming from. It's going to be kind of this effective permissions page. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit here about user groups. So basically, a user gets assigned to a user group, and that user group already had permission sets assigned to it. Therefore, that user now inherits all the permission sets of that user group. So this is a great way to quickly set up a user. So say you have a new member to your sales team, and you want to grant them the same access as everybody else on the sales team, then you would just assign that user to the sales team user group. Okay, so just a great time-saving feature there in Business Central. Okay, as we've discovered today in Business Central, pretty much what gives us access to certain tables, pages, and windows in the system is the permission sets. So next I'm going to show you how we can apply these permission sets to our user, how we can apply a user to a user group, and how we can copy permission sets. Okay, so let's jump right back in here to Business Central, and I'm going to use my now users bookmark to take us right to the users list. So continuing to work with the Colin P user ID, I'm going to go to my permission set by user. And this is a nice matrix here. What it's showing us is permission sets on the left-hand side and every user we have in the system along the top here. Okay, so we can see that, for example, Colin here, I have access to all these permission sets that are checked off. Okay, so applying or unapplying a permission set is pretty much as simple as coming into this matrix and checking it off or on. Okay, so simple as that. It takes a second to do, and you can do it for multiple users at once. So next, let's take a look at how we can apply a user to a user group. So back here we are on our users list page. I'm going to navigate over to our user groups. And going with the example we had earlier, so say Colin P is a new sales member, sales team member that we have, and we want to assign them the sales user group role. Okay, so basically what we would do is come into our user group here, choose which user group we want to assign the user to, and we'll click user group members. Okay, we can already see that Leanne is assigned to this user group, and add a user, simply going to use this action here, add users. It's going to pull up all the users in the system. I'm going to select my name here, and now I'm added to the group, and I get all the permission sets that were assigned to this user group. Okay. Lastly, I just want to show you guys that you can copy permission sets, right? So this is something that could be useful. So say you have a new user and you want to kind of give them similar but not exactly the same access to the system as another user. Well, you can simply come in here to a permission set and, for example, accounts payable here, and you can copy this permission set, right? So just another quick time-saving feature that the developers have added in, makes our lives a lot easier when we have a base to start off when creating permission sets. Okay, so that pretty much brings us to the end of the webinar here. So just to recap, we've looked at users and user groups. We've seen that users can be assigned to user groups, and we've seen that permission sets basically drive the access in the system. We've looked at permission set by user and permission set by user group. These are both matrices in the system. From these matrices, we can assign permission sets to users and user groups, and we can unassign them as well from that same page. Okay, and a little bit earlier on in the webinar, we did take a look at that effective permissions page. So that's basically showing us who has access to what in the system and what's driving that access.